What's up guys, this is Saiyan here. Today I'm coming at you with a Star Wars TCG deck profile. We're looking at a dark side, Darth Maul inspired deck, I guess. This is the first deck that I started to build about a month and a half ago when I kind of started to come back in the game and pick some more stuff up for it. So probably the most amount of development has gone into this deck so far. It could still do with some changes, and obviously finding the cards and being able to afford the cards permitted, I will be perhaps bringing you some other updates to this deck. But let's look at the main villain of the deck, Darth Maul. Running 3 of the 5 cost from set 2. That's generally a nice little starting point because then that will allow us to stack any one of these two 7 costs. I particularly like the this one here. When he's on the speeder, just does a lot, and if you got a lot of force, you can do a bunch of stuff. So these are the two 7 costs that I'm running. We also have the 8 cost from set 2 again, and I am running 2 copies of the 9 cost more from set 2. Now all of these guys are fantastic. Realistically, again, as I said, the 5 cost one is literally just to start off the builds, and then we can stack under or stack on top depending on, of course, how the cards come into our hands, particularly during setup. 7 costs, they both have their own stuff. I do like that this one's just generally a nice beater. Pay to evade to is good, but obviously this one is better, and if I had another copy, perhaps I would run this, but the pay for evade to is a little bit costly on this one. This one is an absolute beast, particularly good against Jedi. Pay 3 force, your opponent can't use evade, that's fantastic. And then these two guys are the big heavy hitters. I tend to have these on the top of the stack. They are by far the fastest with that 70 speed. With that guy out, if your stack is full 4 cards, you got 100 speed on that Maul. You're pretty guaranteed that nothing else is going to go before you, and your dark side, so you win ties as well. So this is the basic Maul lineup. We got 8 Mauls. There isn't much space left for characters, but we do have a couple of things here. Now the deck does rely on force choking the opponent as much as possible, and one part of that gameplay is running 2 copies of Greedo. This is from set 3. When the character step starts, your opponent may pay 3 force, and then you have to retreat Greedo. If they don't do that, then you're obviously 4 dice closer to hopefully winning the game. So I do really like this Greedo. 3 cost is very cheap, and it just does what's on the tin. Now, because I love Imperial Guards, I do have 2 of the misspelled Guard Elite Royal Guards here. They are treated as a Dark Jedi. It doesn't really matter too much here. I'm thinking about perhaps introducing a copy or 2 of the Dark Jedi lightsaber, in which case these guards would see that extra functionality, just a little bit more power, and I think critical hit too. But they can pay 1 evade 1, which is always good, and they're again just a 4 power, 4 health, 40 speed. They can finish off something that perhaps Maul can't quite deal with. And finally, last but not least, we got 2 copies of Han Solo here. This is just such a great card because your opponent playing light side, they're probably going to be looking at running Solo, probably looking at running, of course, Millennium Falcon as well. There's certainly a version of Falcon where you need to have a smuggler or a Wookiee piloting it. And of course, when they have to bid for their Han Solo with you, again, that can just be very useful for you to be able to do some more force choking on them. Accuracy 1, fantastic, love it on every card, and also it draws you an extra card if it's in the character arena at the beginning of your draw step. So card advantage, accuracy 1, it can mess with your opponent's strategy. Love this Han. Yeah. So for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, this is basically a neutral Han. So you can have it in either light side or dark side decks, and it's the cracking Battle of Yavin expansion preview from, I believe this is from A New Hope. Moving on to ground units. Carrying on with the Force Choke. We've got two Bespin twin pod cloud cars here. Accuracy 1 at the beginning of the ground staff. Your opponent can pay 2 force, then you have to retreat them. If they don't do it, then obviously you got a very massive beater just for that investment of 2 build points. Absolutely fantastic stuff. And of course, important to remember the fact that either way you kind of win, because next turn you can just push them back out, and your opponent probably not really gonna be happy to constantly keep paying that 2 force. So two Bespin twin pod cloud cars, two Royal Guards. Again, as I said with the previous one, I kind of really like Royal Guards, have loved them ever since I was a kid. Accuracy 1, critical hit 1, fantastic stuff. They're fairly cheap beaters, again, similar to the cloud card, but obviously we have critical hit 1 here. A little bit slower, a little bit less health, but they also cost 1 more, but they don't have the drawback what you get from the cloud cards. Two more accuracy ground units, Stormtrooper squad, just, you know, maximizing as much as I can on accuracy, particularly in the ground. Because if I can control ground and character, that's probably good enough for me. Got one copy of the Return of the Jedi Skiff. Wish I had more. Great card. Again, really good to force choke your opponent. You can literally just tap down one of their characters unless they pay 2 force. This can be absolutely soul destroying if they haven't got the 2 force to pay. Got 3 Jawa Sandcrawlers. I don't know if I need 3. Seems to be a little bit overkill just because I have other options to draw cards within the deck. Somewhere I probably need to cut maybe a card or 2 that allows me to just refresh my hand. But I do like the Sandcrawlers. That 7 health is just so good. And, well, you know what it does is pretty much a staple in the game. 2 Destroyer Droid squads, so 2 Droid Echoes here. These are pretty much just fillers until I get something that I feel that fits the deck a little bit more. Probably if I had more skiffs, I would probably run those here. And lastly, one of my favorite units, one of my favorite units, a Forest AT-AT. Not only does it have armor, but it switches off your opponent's armor and shield, that whatever it attacks. Difficult to take out and very annoying because it allows you to just cut through your opponent's armor units very quickly. It's a little bit slow, but that 5 health compensates for it with the armor. So these are, again, just very annoying units for opponent to play against. Onto space. Got 2 copies of the TIE Bomber EX-1-2. This is cool because it gets critical hit 2 if you bombard with it, and it has bombard 2. So it's just some of that multi-use flexibility there that we get out from this card. If we need bombard, it's good. If we need just a straight up unit, it's not too costly, I guess. 2 Sith Infiltrator, because, well, obviously we're rocking Darth Maul, so this is pretty much, I think, Sith's or Maul's ship from the first movie. And what's really cool about it, you can pay 2 force. If it's discarded, put it back into your hand, so it can just keep coming back. Very annoying, again, because you know you don't, well, you lose the unit obviously, but you can then replay it next turn if you really want to. And 4 build is not too expensive for it. We got 4 TIE Fighter DS-55-2 in there for the accuracy, in there for the intercept. I know a lot of players prefer the 3-cost one that has 1 health, but I also believe that one doesn't have accuracy, and accuracy is good. Even in space, yeah, they're a little bit more costly, but they're good on speed, and you know you can intercept, protect your Sith Infiltrator, for example, or one of the other main units, which is the Imperial Landing Craft. This is kind of like on similar lines to what the TIE Bomber does, but this is a guaranteed 2 damage to one of your opponent's ground units at the beginning of the ground unit, at the beginning of the ground arena battle. Just a guaranteed 2 damage, which is amazing. You don't even have to do anything about it. Just make sure you obviously deploy these Imperial Landing Crafts once the game has already started. So deploy them on during the setup. Really annoying again. It's just, you know, dealing that damage without your opponent really being able to do anything about it. Besides, of course, evading, for example, they can do that, or getting rid of the landing craft. But often the TIE fighters can then intercept, so the landing craft, if it survives another turn, you know, it can literally just give you 2-4 damage on your opponent's jaw sandcrawler. You can get a hit in for 3, then you're pretty much good. And then finally, as I said, we do have a little bit more card draw. We have 2 copies of Trade Federation C9979 ships. Just tap it, draw a card during your build step. Fairly basic, fairly straightforward. I don't think I've ever really played it, but it can be good. Again, it's one of those like, well, actually, if I can play this during setup, it's not too bad. Getting towards the end of the deck profile, let's look at locations. Just to implement a little bit more force choking, we got 2 meditation chambers here. When the turn ends, you gain 1 force, your opponent loses 1 force. Cracking little card there. And to replace some of our opponent's nasty locations, we got an Occupy Coruscant. When your build step starts, you gain 1 force, and of course this can go to space, ground, or character, so you can just replace whatever your opponent has. Similar lines on Occupied Endor. Again, this is basically the same card. It's just not Coruscant, it's Endor. They virtually do exactly the same. They're from the same set. I don't really know why this is uncommon and that one's common. Tell me in the comments below, because it really makes no rhyme or reason to me. But these are the 4 locations we're running. We could maybe do with another meditation chamber or maybe something else, but for now I kind of find this to be optimum. On to battle cards. I run 3 Clever Escapes. This is probably my favorite battle card. I try to fit this into pretty much every deck because you almost always have units that have power 5 or less, and then just untapping them for 4 force is amazing. You're guaranteed to do it of the 4 force that you get at the beginning of each turn, unless your opponent obviously plays some shenanigans on you, but generally speaking, having 4 force to untap something with power 5 or less is not too bad. Now, it doesn't really work on Maul, but it certainly works on a lot of our ground units, certainly works on a lot of our space units, and it does work on Greedo as well, does work on the guards, so that's pretty sweet. And you know, this card is like, okay, you don't want to use it, you don't want to use it, you don't want to use it, and then one time you use it, you win the game with it. We have 1 sacrifice. I only have the 1 copy, and I haven't really played it yet. I'm not super sure how good this is. If there's a better replacement, please let me know in the comment section below. But yeah, I thought it's a dark side card. Obviously it's very Vader as well. We don't have Vader in the deck, but very dark side kind of stuff. And then 2 Unfriendly Fire. This is kind of like a finisher. Again, this is one of those cards that can win you the game. Coming across 7 force might not be too easy, but when you do play it and it's not disrupted, then just no dice rolls, whatever, just indiscriminate 2 damage to each unit in an area that you pick. Obviously you can again evade, deflect, whatever, but more often than not, if you play this at the correct timing, you just win the game. And then on to missions. We got 4 copies of Splinter the Republic. I'm very much on the verge on this card because I thought the best utilization is to get more Mauls with it, but I don't know, for some reason, you know, during setup I tend to just see pretty much all the Mauls that I need, and honestly, if you see even 2 Mauls, seeing 2 Mauls is probably enough during setup. Maybe good. I mean, the TIE Fighter I'm not super keen on to necessarily search for it. Maybe the landing gear, the landing craft could be good to search for, or perhaps one of the other. Because obviously you might have noticed that most of the cards, they have duplicate stuff, at least 1 extra copy of each card. That's to enable Splinter the Republic to work, but maybe better in like a Stormtrooper kind of build or something like that. So this is still very much kind of like I don't really know what to do with it. But what definitely is in the deck, and it is here to stay, is Maul's Strategy. Love this card. Again, it's just going back to that Maul flavor, and pretty much all the time your opponent's going to be losing 3 force and you're going to be gaining 3 force. So I think that is worth for 3 mission, especially when you have such a relatively low curve of cards to play. So this I definitely like, and it just fits the theme of the deck. Maybe the Splintered Republic could either be cut down for some more locations, or look for some additional units to put into the deck. But this is it for now, guys. Thanks for joining me for this first actual constructed review for my Star Wars TCG stuff. I hope you liked it, and there's more to come. Up until next time, peace.